The oil industry coming into Virunga was a huge concern. It became a very intense confrontation for about 5 years. It dominated our lives. What we're talking about there are two things. If the resources are being exploited illegally, they have to bypass the institutions of state, and the legitimate state institutions that are there to apply the rule of law, and to be able to bypass that, they work through different channels broadly defined as corruption. And that's one of the most damaging things for the institutions of state. And when state institutions start to weaken in that way, then you've got one of the two fundamental ingredients for civil war. The other is what we were discussing, the revenue streams for private armies. And what you also find is that when large-scale economic actors are going into an area, they need security, and to be able to obtain the shortcut to obtaining security, and it's completely illegal, it's completely immoral, and it's incredibly damaging to society, is to pay the local power brokers, the local militias, to leave you alone. And that becomes very quickly a revenue stream for the armed groups. And that's really what we were finding in Virunga, is that an extractive industry coming into the park illegally was having to draw on those two methods: corrupting government officials on the one hand, and paying armed groups to avoid being threatened by them. To overcome it, we needed again a lot of allies, one of which was the European Union, that really stood by us throughout that period, and that was critical. We were supported financially, but we were also supported politically to uphold our mandate, which was governance over natural resources. And so we had a legal obligation to prevent the illegal extraction of oil in the park. Over 5 years, we took a very firm position, which was to not to allow it. To be able to do that, we needed to harness that support. And one of the instruments for achieving that was the film Virunga, that was very, very successful in that regard. It meant that we were able to survive 5 years. And then other things came into play, like the oil prices crashed. That helped us a lot. But at the same time, it was this ability to keep going, to survive through this threat, until luck turned our way. And so it was a very difficult struggle. People were killed around the park in their opposition to the oil industry. A lot of people were hurt, and everything we were trying to achieve was really under threat. But today the oil company has left, so they gave up. And of course, a big part of that was the global awareness on the issue in Virunga that was achieved through the film. Tour operators were very upset with the film because it's not really the best promotion of a national park when you're demonstrably in the middle of a war, that there are all these threats coming from everywhere. It may not be your choice destination for a holiday, but actually it's had the opposite effect. So there's always that small segment of this massive tourism market across the world. One of the fastest growing sectors of the global economy is tourism. And there are always within that those people who want something a little bit more edgy, and Virunga meets their expectations quite well. So we've seen this incredible growth in tourism in the last 3 years, where we started with about 500 tourists after the war coming to Virunga. Now we're close to 10,000. And we're increasing at about 40% a year. So that's really encouraging.